What's up? This is Coach Green, and we're back. Another episode of Green's Gridiron Exchange. I'm going to be welcoming my co hosts as they get ready to kick off this show. Welcome back, Andy V and Royce Wheeler. We've been gone for a while, fellas, but we back at it for what may be the last few shows of the football season. The playoffs has gone on. All the teams are done. Now it's pretty much all-star games and guys that's uncommitted and wrapping up the season. So glad for you guys to join us tonight. And just excited, man, for the future of the young men to come. We've got an opportunity to see them all season. We've got the opportunity to witness history being made and just all the things that has went along with this season. And you guys have been right here in the thick of it to witness it all. So hats off to you guys, man. But let's jump into the show for tonight. Royce, what's on the docket for tonight?
Nothing much really. We just got a few things we're gonna talk about. Probably have a few shows left, but we have just like me and Andy was talking about. There's a lot that we could cover that could probably go into spring and probably into next fall. So tonight we're just gonna talk about a few things. But first thing we want to do is just go ahead and talk about the playoffs. We know that Andy saw a lot of playoffs. He was down there in Miami for the CCC Chaminade Madonna game. And just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Of course, we all know that we got to see a lot of Casey Barrett for the first time, sophomore quarterback from CCC. And I love what I saw out of him as far as his composure in the pocket, his ability to run, as a sophomore, and pretty much I think the future looks very bright. But let's get Andy's analysis of what he saw as far as the game and as far as what he thinks. What you think as far as the future at CCC, and what you saw as far as the game.
Well, I'll talk about the game first, and then kind of the future afterwards. But I gotta say, for the first half, I mean, watching this game three times over the last 3 years, it was absolutely for two quarters. This was the closest I've seen CCC when you're talking about going into halftime and being in the game. I mean, in 2022, 2023, I mean, it was a wrap. It was already like you knew, like it was going to be a running clock probably most of the second half, and they're already trailing by like 28, 35 points at minimum. So this year, I mean, they went into halftime down 14-0. To me, that, I mean, a two-score game. I thought Casey Barrett was doing a really nice job. Not so much throwing the football, but running the football, and not on design runs, just kind of deciding on his own in drop back situations when to tuck and run it. And when he wanted to, I mean, he wasn't afraid at all up against Chaminade Madonna's defenders. He was lowering his head, getting those extra yardage. I mean, I had him, 120 yards on 13 carries. So, I mean, he absolutely, when he decided, there's nothing downfield, which was usually pretty quick. I mean, he must have only been looking one or two reads, and then he was just tucking and running it. But I mean, he led them on a few drives in that opening half where you felt like really on a couple of them they should have came away with points.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I kept saying, if they would have scored one touchdown and made that like a 14-7 game at half, I mean, you got to think mentally for Chaminade. Not that they're not used to being scored on, or really, actually, I'd take that back. They're not used to being scored on, but they're probably not used to being in a game at halftime. So to me, if it's 14-7, they kind of have to attack it a little differently. They got to feel like, okay, we need to put our foot on the gas pedal. And I thought CCC was doing a really good job of getting after
Yeah, I think so
the.
too.
Yeah, I thought they're doing a good job pass rushing wise, getting after the quarterback, Beckham Kritza, Penn State commit. I thought, Tank was coming off the edge really hot. Keogh was doing a good job. I mean, to play any better defensively against Chaminade, you couldn't have asked for a better half. It was the second half where the game just got away from them, and I think that was you have to factor in the defense had been on the field really the entire first half outside of those sustained drives. I mean, the defense was trying to just hold them. Finally, the water broke the bridge, and they started breaking some big runs, big plays, and CCC only got that one touchdown by Jenkins. I think it was in the fourth quarter, but I mean, absolutely the most competitive if we're talking about the last three times they've met Chaminade. And the future, well, I mean, I put out my way too early predictions, and I don't I don't have CCC early on going back to the 1A state championship game. I think Cardinal Newman brings back more pieces. Now, that's not to say in the let's just say the invisible or whatever world of high school portal transferring, whatever, because I'm seeing a lot of movement already. But on paper today, what they have, I mean, they lose a lot because you think you lose one of the best players in Pinellas County history in Jershon Newton. So you got to take that with you got to look at that as like, that's a huge loss. You losing not just a great player, but even better, kid. I was watching him on the sideline, and man, he looked like he was just an upset kid. Like he wishes he could have been on that field, because you have to imagine like what that was, for him standing there having to watch that. And I think he would have absolutely made a difference. I think he could have made that a game at halftime for sure if he's playing. Nothing against Barrett. I think he was doing a fine job. It's just, that's a state championship game. I think that was his second start ever. I mean, it's a kind of a big spot to be put in as a backup.
And I think even, but a lot, the turnover early by Hutchison, really the turnovers, which weren't really Burton's fault. You know what I'm saying? I think that I think those were just the killers. And I mean, whether Newton or Bear was in there, those couple turn, because I mean they were crossing the 50 easy. They were easily getting into scoring territory, and it was just small little things. I mean, easily could have walked away with a field goal. Now there was one turnover by Barrett, I believe, on third down. It was an interception going into the end zone, I want to say. And of course, I think that would have been a big difference for Newton. But the turnovers were just they were just crazy. It was just killer. Outside of that, I think CCC matched up well. The wide receiver, you could definitely see when you looked at the field, like, okay, the wide receiver availability wasn't much there for Barrett, but he still was able to work with what he had. So I love what we saw from CCC. I think you definitely saw that there was a lot of youth on the field for CCC still. Yeah. So I think that just looking at what they've worked with the last couple seasons, they haven't worked with, when you look at their teams pound for pound and receiver for receiver, they don't work with a lot of the big names like some of these other teams. And they're still getting to where they need to with, the talent of Deshaun Newton, of course, and some of those others. And I definitely think Barrett is ready to cover for Newton. So I think that the future is very bright at CCC. What you think, Graham?
Well, I know for a fact that it was funny because that same Wednesday was the same day as the Pinellas North-South All-Star game, and even the fans were enamored with what was the score, and when they found out it was 14-0 at halftime, everybody was like, oh, Shawnee's not even playing, and they're keeping it close. So, Pinellas County still had high hopes for them, and they even were, keeping the fans updated during the game, letting us know the score. Of course, we wish it was on the other side, and that they would have come home with the the trophy, and them being there 3 times and coming up short. It's hard to continue that. You know what I mean? It's hard getting to number one, the state championship, and then getting there 3 times and not winning it. It's especially for our county where the talent is so spread out. You really have to have a solid team, and you really have to have a group of special guys. So um, the talent is definitely there. And like Andy alluded to, do we think that they'll be able to maintain the same type of just luster that they've had in these past 3 years? I don't know. It's going to definitely be tough. But CCC is a team that can do it, and I think they will attract all of the some of the best talent in the area to come over there, and hopefully they can make another run.
Definitely. So just wrapping up, who would you say? I mean, of course, would you have CCC as the number one team going into spring?
I mean, I think until they can be knocked off that pedestal, yeah, you gotta. Even with that, I mean, I guess the only reason why I don't have them just going right back to the state championship is because I'm looking at it right now here on Max Preps. I mean, you losing 3 1,000-yard rushers that combined for 3,200 yards, about roundabout, and then 34 touchdowns. And then that's not even counting Keogh, who had 13 touchdowns himself. So really, I mean, you're talking about 47, 46 touchdowns. So, there's a lot of guys that got to step up, but I mean, it's hard to bet against Chris Harvey and his guys. They're going to, I know he put out a lot of stuff saying, hey, they're already kind of betting against us. And hey, I mean, that's what you got to do, right? I mean, if there's people out there like myself saying they're not going to get back, I mean, your job is to want to prove to everybody you can get back. And, I don't know who in the county you would sit there and say right now today is better than CCC. I don't know. Maybe you look at Clearwater, maybe just because they return their quarterback, you return Samuel, one of the hottest offensive lineman prospects in the state. But I don't know if that's enough to really just say they're better than CCC. I think they got some talent to match up, but in a one-on-one game, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. And then you look at I think that there's going to be a lot of movement. Um, of course, with Coach Jesse going to St. Pete Catholic now, I could expect some movement. Some players coming from Tarpon over to St. Pete Catholic. Maybe a few. I expect a few players from each school to slowly drift over to St. Pete Catholic's way. Maybe a few players from Northeast. Um, I expect that. So I expect to see some different things. I think that Lakewood with Aiden Wallace coming back, experienced offensive line coming back. Damari Roberts, they have some diamond. They have some good offensive talent coming back. Um, of course, they're probably going to get some players in as well. Um, I love what Bogey's doing. Of course, I think Bogey, they definitely have a lot of players. St. Pete, um, I definitely think those teams right there could definitely be coming back. Of course, with Largo and Anthony Harris. But what you think, Green? Do you have CCC tabbed as the number one team coming back?
Um, it's early, you definitely have to see what spring holds, and kind of what matriculates with the high school transfer portal, as we would like to say. And as things it starts to get close around that, what's that, February, March time, when spring starts to wrap up, starts to come into full swing. You'll start to see kind of the movements of where the most traction of what school is getting the most traction with the guys. I know AJ Sattinger just got in the position over at Countryside.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
I don't know if that's going to be a hotbed, to sway talent to go over there, but I'm pretty sure he has some guys, targeted
Right.
that he's probably going to be, telling them, hey, here's an opportunity to come start, and we have NIL money that we can give you, so, but no, but seriously, we you got to look at with the with CCC, man. Just with the facilities they have, the coaching and the resume, I think that they'll still be the number one team in my book coming back in, just because they've proved time and time again that they're able to lose a bunch of talent, develop the talent that they have, as well as bring in new talent that can gel with the talent that they already have. So we'll have to
Okay.
see what shakes out with them.
All right. So I got a question for you guys. Who would be your top 5 players going into spring? Um, let's start with you, Green.
Whew, top five. I mean, I don't want to. I won't have a order of who's number one and number five. I'll just give you five off the top. Anthony Harris definitely will be on that top five. Probably I would say 26 class and 27 class. So I would probably say the offensive tackle at Lakewood. Both Mark Holloway and the Chancellor Campbell kid will probably be high up there. The safety, Courtney Taylor, out of St. Pete, will definitely be up there as a top guy. And can't forget Aiden Wallace, a kid who came in and just kind of should have had more yards than he did. A couple of drop passes here and there, and also missed a week or two with a hurt ankle for the Lakewood Spartans. With the weapons he has returning, he'll be a guy that's up there. Several guys, man, that you can put up there, but just right off the top of my head. What year is Marabella? Is he coming back for East Lake?
Yeah, I don't. What was Mirabella a junior? I believe, right?
Yeah, I think Marabella was a junior. I don't think he was a senior this year.
Yeah,
Running
I
back
believe
for East
Mirabella
Lake.
was a junior.
So he's definitely a top kid to keep an eye on as he comes back for East Lake. But just rattling off some that I was kind of thinking of, that I can think of right off the bat without kind of looking up a list of guys. I would say those guys there. Oh, and I can't forget quarterback out of Clearwater,
Jalen
Jalen
White.
White. Yeah, Jalen White would probably be my top guy coming back. If I had number one, he would probably be my number one guy coming back.
Okay, definitely, man. As you can see, we got Anthony Harris on the screen. Definitely a dynamic player. What about you, Andy? What you if you had top 5 players, who would you say?
I mean, I'd have to echo some of the guys Green just said. I think Brant Scott from Osceola, I think he's one. I'm kind of just going through guys with stats. I mean, Samuel Roseboro from Clearwater, he's back. Got I mean, I know he only played a handful, but heck, he played in the biggest game, and he just, we were just talking about him. Barrett, I think he's absolutely somebody we gotta say is going to be a big returner. Joaquin, I'm gonna say at Tarpon Springs. I know. I'm sure everybody's like wondering what he'll do with Coach Jesse going to St. Pete Catholic. I'm just gonna say he's at Tarpon Springs, unless it's said otherwise. Christian Murray, defensive lineman at Boca Ciega. He was somebody that I saw some statistics the other day. He had 67 tackles, a handful of sacks. big piece of that Bocasiega defense. Green said Aiden Wallace. Obviously, he's tremendous quarterback talent coming back. Jalen White. This is kind of off the topic, but I wanted to bring it up. I was going to put something on X about it, but what the heck's going on at Eastlake? My goodness.
Yeah.
They are losing kids by the bunches.
Really?
I'd got to say, there's probably been 6, 7, 8 kids that have announced that they're leaving Eastlake and they're going to, either Mitchell. I saw one today say he's going to Dunedin. I saw another one say he's going to. It's all over the place. Another one.
Well, I saw Amelia say he's staying. I saw him announce that.
Yeah, me too.
I saw that a couple hours ago. So it looks like the core group. Well, the leader's going to stay. So that's surprising.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like, for a team that coming off like a down year, talk about a gut punch. Now you got all these kids announcing like what they're doing, and I don't know. It's just a sad situation. You're talking about a program that's seen so much success over the last couple decades with Bob Hudson at the helm, and then you got something like today, or the past few days anyways, where all these kids are announcing they're leaving, and I don't know. I'm just surprised that I get they went 3-7. I totally understand that, but it's like you wanted to play better competition, or I talked to somebody familiar with the situation, and from what I understood, Eastlake, the Eastlake faithful wanted to see them play up against better teams. Well, right out of the gates, they did. They got what they wanted. Got to play Camden County out of Georgia, and they got beat pretty good. And then you go through the season. You play Pinellas Park next, you lose. St. Pete, you lose. Mitchell, loss. You beat your rival, and then you lose another 3 to Steinbrenner, Clearwater, and Largo, and then you finish it up with wins over Countryside and another rival in PHU. But I don't know. I don't know what they're expecting. Artavius Scott and those guys aren't walking through the door anytime soon. I think they got to temper down their expectations and understand Eastlake's kind of more of a, at this point, they're more of a middle of the road, maybe a little above if they schedule it a little differently. If some of these games go a little bit more their way, I could see them being like a 5-5 team. I just don't see them really immediately getting back to that heyday of when they're winning district titles and they're just, they're rolling everybody. I think that's those years are, I don't want to say long gone, but they seem like they were a long time ago, and it probably really wasn't. It might have been like just a few years ago that they were Pinellas County's top dog.
Definitely. If I could say probably my top 5, of course, would be Joaquin. Definitely Joaquin. He's probably going to be one of the hottest players coming into the spring, of course. I like a guy. I like CJ Cresser. I like him. I like him a lot. I think he's a guy who will be coming in. He's a tackling machine. He could play linebacker. He could play DB. He could play in the box, as we saw this past year. I think that he's going to be somebody who's honestly, he has the D1 size for DB, safety, whatever they want him to play, and he has the ability as well. So I think he's going to eventually be probably one of the hottest players in the spring as well. Love Aiden Wallace, Wayne Cunningham, a name that we kind of drifted away, of course, because he went over there to Clearwater, surrounded by all of that talent. of course, and we kind of took our eyes off Clearwater because of the few losses. And then, of course, I'll say Courtney Taylor out of St. Pete, a guy that if you watch his film, he's a missile as well. I like him along with him, um, M9 out of Northeast, and Cresser. Those guys, to me, when you look at their film, the way they come in and play defense, I like those guys a lot. But you got Anthony Roman from Pinellas Park, a guy who on defense is just as impactful as Carroll was this past season. So I think that we have a lot of players going to the spring, a lot of defensive players, a lot of but of course you got your quarterbacks, Jalen White. He's I think his ability, his arm is just to me is just as good as Joaquin's. The running ability is there. I really don't see, I think that he's gonna have a hot spring as well. I can't see him having any trouble, honestly, being recruited. The numbers may not be there, but the ability and the arm is definitely there. So those would definitely be some of my top players coming in. But with Coach Jesse going to St. Pete Catholic, they have a kid over there, Malik Newton. I like him. He's a pretty good athlete. I think if Coach Jesse has a couple players that he can work with, but I think that he's going to get some players in. He's going to change some. He's going to change a few players as far as being seen over there. So I like what we have going into the spring so far. So let's just take a quick little shift real quick. Who would you guys say is who would you guys say are your top uncommitted players so far? I know that we've seen we didn't really see a lot of players get signed. Who did we see? We saw Kono, we saw Newton and Kono get signed, of
Mhm.
course. Who else did we see get signed, Grant?
Um, I want to say Makai Johnson did end up signing with UConn.
He did sign that day?
I believe so. Yeah, I seen
Oh,
his graphic come up.
yeah.
Then you also had Duke Rich, who signed also out of
Right,
CCC
right.
Cornell.
Definitely.
Um, outside of those four, um, I don't know if any guys actually signed. I know we have a couple of guys that's committed, that's going to sign in February. Um, I ended up doing a top 40 list of the uncommitted guys, or just a list in general to put on the spreadsheet to just share with a few schools that may be looking for the top talent in our area. And I would say a large percentage of them was still uncommitted to schools. And the question begs is, with the new rule that you guys just seen passed down about JUCO, I don't know if you've seen that, but now guys can go to JUCO for 2 years and it don't count against them. That's just another wrinkle that's gonna hurt the high school kids, because now you definitely can take a fallback kid because it won't count against them, right? So if you're at
Mm-hmm.
Georgia for a year or two, you can go to a JUCO without having to worry about losing eligibility of playing 2 years. So you can go play at a Power Four or FCS for 2 years, go to a JUCO, play 2 years, and then go back up, like if it's a grade issue. So it's just gotten even tougher for high school kids with now JUCO years don't count against you. So you can be 26 and be at a JUCO. You know what I'm saying? That hurts a high school kid who's just coming out of high school, because now, of course, the JUCO is going to take a kid who's already been in the program, or at a bigger program, because of course coaches want to win now. So let me get a kid that's already proven he knows what a college schedule needs to be like. He's already fit the part. We don't have to put weight on him. He already knows what it means to play college football. So let me take him over a high school kid who we may have to redshirt or develop him for a year. You know what I'm
I
saying?
could
So,
understand that. Yeah, I could definitely understand that. On the other end, though, I think it does open up the door, and it does. I think it and some knowledge needs to be given. I think some of these players, it gives them a chance to go ahead and take that shot at JUCO. that they don't think about.
Yeah.
I see a lot of these JUCO coaches and some of these players' comments, and they kind of just push them to the side. But I mean, this will really give I think you know some of these guys, if I think they need to go to JUCO and prove themselves.
Yeah.
It's not a bad. It won't be a bad idea for you guys to go ahead, take that chance, go ahead and prove yourself. Take that 1 to 2 years and go ahead and make it happen. This last class, I think that we're going to have more players that are fit for that route versus not fit for it. That are
Yeah.
we have a lot of players, of course, that are D2 FCS players, but just looking at the portal, if you're good enough, if you can go up there and prove yourself, I mean, you can make it. You will have the opportunity. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of opportunity in this as well. But yes, it will take the eyes off a lot of high school players. And if you go into, it's an understanding process. You have to understand that, okay, if I'm not at the top, the opportunity is still there. Let me stay focused. Let me go ahead and either get these small school offers. Let me stop big time and play. Let me stop big timing guys, and let me just take these opportunities at hand because there's a lot of opportunities out here, guys. Small school opportunities, a lot of opportunities. So as far as your top committed players, who would you who I know did you name a few, Green? You
No,
named a
let
few.
me just name a few right off the top. So of course you got Walt Flanoy out of Bogey. You also have Javian McKenzie, wide receiver out of um Clearwater. I thought by now those guys would have already have committed somewhere, and I'm pretty sure they have maybe some schools that's on the table because I have witnessed the offers that has gone out to them. But those two definitely. Uh, I would also say um, the D tackle out of Clearwater, Noel Brown. He's recently got quite a few offers from some bigger schools. So I'm interested to see where he lands. Of course, quarterback Dylan Nara. Pretty much those bogey guys that made a difference for the Bogus Diego Pirates. Kyrie Jenkins and also Kevin Davis. Real interested to see where they'll go, where they'll end up. And then lastly, because I kind of named a few, but the running back from Pinellas Park, Zamir McNeil. I'll be real interested to see where he'll land because definitely one of the more talented backs in the area. I think he was right up there with Kono. Kono really had a year where he was afforded. He can sit back and kind of only play as needed. He can get out of some games early to save him for later postseason games and things like that. But Zamir White, not only did he play good during the season, but he won the MVP of from the All Star game, and I believe he'll be also playing in the Howard Franklin Bowl that's coming up in January. So, it's just it'd be real interesting to see where these kids land. And my thing to them is, if you get a solid school that wants to give you, some money, and you can go there and get a 4 year education. Like we all know, don't wait for these big schools to come and offer because once they tell you that we don't have any more room because they already given up all their scholarships, that's it. You know what I mean? So I hope it's more of they just trying to find a good fit versus they have a few smaller schools and they're waiting on that big FCS or a Power Four school to come out of the blue and offer. That'd be a travesty for a kid to miss out on the opportunity, waiting on a big school to come and offer late, and then the classes get full, and now they're forced to go to JUCO. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely, definitely, definitely. And yeah, McNeil is definitely up there at the top for me. Um, of course, Greg Thomas, um, one of the top players, of course, in the playoffs and throughout the season. Um, Keo Jenkins, not committed yet. He just got an offer from Long Island University.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, hopefully he'll be pulling the trigger on that. Amari Carroll, I think one of the most overlooked athletes as far as this class. A difference maker on both sides of the ball. Looks like a speedster to me, but of course, you know, some schools always say never fast. You're never fast enough for some players, and some schools never big enough. But I think that Amari Carroll, somebody who could be an FCS D2 player easy, um, make a big difference. We watch players like Cameron Canterbury, who came out of Pinellas Park, big difference players who's now a ULM. Um, of course, Javion McKinsley, Dylan Nara, Clifton Sloan. It's just a large amount of guys. Jeff Jones, of course, probably one of the top athletes that we've seen. Well, probably the best athletes come out of St. Pete history. But of course, we probably we've talked about him. Of course, we know that his recruitment has pretty much come down to it may have came down to not knowing exactly what position he may play. Um, so that's just that may be one of the factors. But at the end of the day, Big McNeil is definitely up there at the top, as you can see. One of the best running backs. Who would you say, Andy, is your top as
Yeah.
far as uncommitted players?
I feel like you guys have really named like a lot of the guys. I don't think there's anyone I'm gonna say that we haven't talked about it. I don't know if I heard Keo out of CCC, or I think you just said his name. I mean, I guess just seeing like the kids who are committed to like Power 4 programs, getting a good look at a lot of them at these state championship games, and then all throughout the year. And then you see a program like CCC who, wins consistently every year, produces some pretty good talent, and you try to figure, because this goes back to why kids transfer. They go for the better opportunities because, like Green said, with now junior college is gonna they're not going to count those years when your clock starts at the NCAA level. I mean, yeah, those opportunities are absolutely becoming less and less there. Like, basically, you need to be somebody that's college ready, not just like in terms of a grade point average and you have some promise. You're somebody that needs to be able to contribute in some kind of way, like almost out of the gates. You're not going to be allotted this time to really like kind of learn. And then you're also seeing on the flip side of that, kids, I think, prematurely dropping out of their scholarship and hopping into the portal really quickly just because the situation may have a new head coach involved. They feel like there's an unknown. And I know there's a myriad of reasons why kids decide to jump into that portal, but this is just me talking, but I feel like in essence, it's almost like quitting your job without knowing you got another one lined up. I mean, to me, you better know you have somewhere lined up that when you hop in that portal, you have another place waiting to allow you to commit and jump over there. Because I feel like there's thousands that are leaving their guaranteed scholarships at the place that they originally committed and signed to, and they don't have a plan. There's no plan. It's just, I'm hopping in the portal. I'm going to be like everybody else. I'm going to get paid. I'm going to get another scholarship. No worry about it. But it's like those opportunities are becoming less and less for you, just like there is for the high school kids. And just like, to me, to even talk like we could parlay this into CCC saw in the last couple of years, Jeremiah Smith. Well, heck, if he jumps into the portal, of course he's going to have a home because everybody would want him. Everybody would want to pay him. He would be probably the highest. He would be the top quote unquote college free agent there is because he's a heck of a receiver. Who would have
be it like Anthony Calandria, as we just see.
Yeah, well, and that's when you have a plan, right? Like Calandria left Virginia to go elsewhere, but he knew
Yeah, he knew.
Yeah, he knew he had an opportunity. Somebody's like, hey, you hop into the portal. We got a scholarship waiting for you. You commit. And then, whatever the details in the background are with NIL money and all that, because those are the new kind of intricacies of all this that wasn't there before NIL money became a part of it. It is absolutely like free agency at its finest. It's just, when you hop into the portal and you have no plan, it's like, to me, it's almost, it's crazy. It's absolutely, I would say, mind blowing if you're thinking like you're just going to get in there and somebody, there are coaches watching your film, right? But if you didn't play your freshman year, I mean, what are they watching? They're going to watch your high school film. But why watch your high school film when they could watch it of somebody else who actually played as a freshman and could contribute immediately? It's all about immediate contribution because you guys already pointed it out. Winning is the most important thing there is to college and NFL coaches, which I think actually being a fired college or NFL coach is probably the best job there is because you get paid out all your money to go do nothing. You get to go hang out, basically, and get paid millions. But, yeah, you got to win. And the opportunities for a lot of these high school kids that are – I mean, I think 10, 15 years ago, some of these guys were talking about that haven't been signed yet and they're still kind of like trying to figure it out. I think they'd be somewhere. They would have already made a decision. Definitely. We'd be saying, Way is somewhere. Keo Jenkins is somewhere. Whatever. There's so many of them. I'm sure we could create a Christmas list, a list of Santa of all the guys we think who should be going on to college. But we don't have the time. And it's because of everything we're talking about. You got junior college kids now going to be allotted all this time to go into the NCAA. And it's going to be the cream of the crop, get the scholarships, and then everybody else, Green just said it. Don't be picky. Do not be picky. Just
Andy, I mean to cut you, but I do have a question for you that I'm pretty sure you can speak to. So while you were able to see the different classes throughout the state in the state championship, and you covered them, and for each class that you saw, for the teams that represented from Pinellas, of those classes that didn't make it, I'm pretty sure most of those teams had kids that are going to play at the next level that you covered, that you said, hey, this team has ABC that's already committed to da. What would you say is the biggest difference from the teams that made it? Of course, depth is an issue here in Pinellas, but none of our teams would have probably even come close to some of the teams you saw, and you saw it from an eye view. What do you think was the biggest difference that you saw with the teams that made it to the finals versus the teams that we talk about weekly here in Pinellas?
I would say the teams that you see in the state championships versus the teams that we're kind of talking about, they're just trying to get in the playoffs, or they get into the playoffs and they're, out by round one. It's, I would just say kind of that front line, like the offensive lines really both sides of the line. I know today's game is all about throwing the rock and throwing it around the yard and go doubles and trips and quads and all that stuff. But I think at the end of the day, football is still won down in the trenches. I mean, I think someday somebody better come up with the idea of doing like a inside run camp instead of, I get all the 7-on-7 camps are great, but I think eventually football is like a boomerang. It's going to come back to running the football is what sets up your, the passing game, because I know in hearing all kinds of level of football, people are talking about the passing game. It isn't as fluid at times as it would be, in the past. But I think when we talk about that, you got to talk about how well teams kind of established running games, because you were all about running the football probably like 20 years ago. That's probably all we saw was really run the football. If you were in gun and doubles in 2005, I mean, you were being kind of cute. with your formations. People be like, oh, you want to get tricky. But now it's like that's the norm. If you line up in single back or split back or wing, now people are looking at you kind of funny, like, what the heck are you doing? Like, you trying to run the ball at us like that? But to me, I think that's offensive and defensive line. That's where I feel like you look at any of those teams. I mean, you look at Clearwater Central Catholic versus really anyone in the county, and you would look at that front line. I know what's his name, Davis, there on the front line for CCC. Somebody was like, man, look at, they were saying to me at the state championship game, they're like, that is a huge human being. And I'm like, that is a huge human being. That's a big kid. But you see, not that there's a lot of kids his size playing in the state championship game. But a lot of them are like 6'3", 6'4", 290, 300. You're seeing a lot of big kids. And I think when you watch these other teams that are just like I went to Boca Ciega's practice. Those kids, they're obviously talented. They got to the, third round. But if you looked at their front line and you looked at, a CCC, I think you're talking, two totally different fronts. You're talking about if CCC wanted to kind of just run the ball at them all night. I mean, what is it that Boca Ciega could really do to stop them? I don't think they could, just because they don't have the beef. They don't have the guys up front. And that's the thing you saw with Venice. You saw with American Heritage. Miami Northwestern could even, run the ball a little bit. All these teams, they had big kids up on that line of scrimmage. And I think that's where, I think all coaches talk about how hard it is to get big boys in the school to play football. They think that's the hardest thing to do nowadays. I think the running joke I hear all the time is the biggest guys, they're in the band. Like, they don't play football, they're in the band. And I'm like, that's hilarious. But that's the change in, the world, is like they would rather not be at practice at 2:30 when it's 95 degrees out. They rather go, maybe go play the trombone, or maybe they just want to go home. They don't want to be out there. And I think that's a change in, I think kind of culture in high school is, I know us three, we, when we played, we were like, yeah, after school, we're going to football practice. That's what we want to do. Yeah. Right. That's not, I don't think that's like very desirable nowadays.
Yeah. Right. Definitely. Understood, man. Understood. Well, fellas, man, we getting close to that time. I definitely think that I know we got one more game, the Howard Franklin Bowl coming up. Are you going to that, Andy?
I don't know. I haven't put a ton of thought into it, just because I know it. What is it? It's coming up here, right? It's like on the 20.
No, it's January, right?
January, okay.
January 4th, they moved it back. It was supposed to be the 21st, which would have actually been yesterday, but they moved it to the 4th, January 4th. So,
all right.
I don't know. Are you guys going to it?
Yeah, I'm gonna slide through.
Yeah,
I want to see. I want to see what Tampa. I want to see the talent compared to Tampa. I want to see. That's really what I think we need to see. If we could get both teams to show up, play hard, and really show up for both sides, I think this could be a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys got an opportunity to check this past weekend as well. They had the Dade versus Broward game. And it looked like, a lot of the guys just had a good time, and it was, of course, bragging rights. The jerseys were awesome. I really like the whoever put the jerseys together, but I think, again, it was just a way for kids that maybe been playing with each other since Pop Warner to have their last hoorah before they leave to go off to the next level. I don't know who won the game, but it looked like it was pretty entertaining. And again, like I said, this is our bowl game over here, Howard Franklin, separating the two counties, Pinellas and Hillsborough. So I'm excited to see this game as well, to see how it turns out.
Broward won.
Broward did okay.
Yeah, I think I've seen enough trash talking between the two counties to. I think I'm kind of done seeing it at this point, but it's cool. I don't know. There's some that I know Pasco County when they did. I think it was a couple of years ago. They changed the format and they did it like it was Pasco versus Hernando Citrus, which some people thought was a great idea, and then there's people that are more traditional that liked the game just being Pasco County itself. So I don't know. I mean. And I think it depends. As long as it's policed well, I mean, it can be really good. Mm-hmm. The thing is, communication as we know it in today's, I'd say, day and age, sounding like an old person, but we can't distinguish via text comments and text messaging and tweets what's kind of something that's being too aggressive, and then but I think that's lost in form of communication of actually conversating and actually having some kind of like talk with the other player, knowing him from something other than just dapping him up at a 7-on-7. I think as long as both sides can understand it's just a fun rivalry between the counties and they don't take it like out of hand, that's where as long as they understand that, because I've seen both sides, it could be something really good. Like you said, Dade and Broward, I think they understand they can't take it because one time it going out of hand, it's over. Yeah, they'll can the game. There won't be another Dade Broward game ever again. That's the same thing. They got a first chance here with the Howard Franklin Bowl to do something pretty cool. But all it takes is, couple problems or fights or whatever to ruin it all. So hopefully everybody goes in there with the right mentality, that it's for fun, opportunity for them to show their abilities and have county pride. Have county pride in Pinellas. Have your county pride for Hillsborough. And go at it, 727 versus 813, and then see who wins. It looks like James Wilder's put together this all-star staff for the Hillsborough team. I don't know what Pinellas has on their side, but it looks cool. It looks cool on paper. It's just gotta be ran. Gotta be the kids just have to understand. Don't take it too far. It's just one all-star game. It's not for a state title, not for a district title. It's just one game.
Definitely, man. So I think we're gonna try to do one more show next week. We're gonna be sending out the ballots this week for those player awards, so we'll be talking about that and kind of wrapping everything up for the season, man. So I appreciate you guys, and I will holler at you guys later, man. And salute, man. Have a great season.
All right, my man. Happy holidays.
Right,
Happy holidays, guys.
Yes, sir.
Same to you.